10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Hello and welcome. My name is Sir Jeffrey Bell, and we are going to be discussing blade maintenance today. Right now in front of us, we have your standard issue Claymore Greatsword. Greatswords are generally two-handed weapons, not something you brandish with one arm and have a shield in the other. This is when you want to just dish out more pain than defense. These are remarkable little blades, big blades, I should say. And if you want to keep this thing's cutting power strong and keep it, so it doesn't shatter on the battlefield, you need to have proper maintenance. And we're going to show you how to do that today. So let's go ahead and get this unsheathed. Now, the idea here is that your blade never touches the actual table, because if you do have a blade that's really well maintained and kept sharp, it's going to chop up whatever cloth you have, or if you have a wooden table, it'll jut it up if you don't do it well enough. So you're going to want to keep something underneath it. In this case, I'm going to use the sheath to keep the blade separate from the actual table. So now that we've done that, unfortunately, since this is a replica blade for safety reasons, I don't actually have an official cleaning kit with me. But in the instance I did have one, it would contain three things. The first thing it contained would be a whetstone. A whetstone is a very sharp-edged square/rectangular piece of rock that is used to run along the blade's edge and keep it sharp. The other thing it would contain is a bottle of blade oil, which it's basically mineral oil. It keeps the blade from degrading and rusting. And the third thing it would have is a cloth. Now the cloth, we're going to go ahead and start with, because it's the only piece of the cleaning kit I actually do have. First thing we're going to do is, there's a lot of small tidbits of potential rust, fingerprints, some dust. This has been stored for quite a while. So we're going to run down the actual blade part and try and get as much of these fingerprints off as we can. Just try and make sure the blade's ready to go, as clean as we can get it. Unfortunately, this blade wasn't as well maintained as I would have liked it to be, so there's small tidbits of rust showing here, and maybe some others on the other side of it. So once we go ahead and give us a quick dust off, we're going to flip the blade over. Get the other side as well. Alright, so once we make sure it's dusted off and cleaned off, we're then going to begin with the cleaning section of it. I forgot to mention the one more piece of the cleaning kit would have some sort of cleaning powder. This powder, you would make sure it goes across the entire blade. You don't go crazy with it, but just a healthy smattering. And then you're going to take your cloth and you're going to sort of buff it into the actual blade. Not just wiping it off, just going to buff it. Buff it out, buff it in there. You're really rubbing the cleaning powder inside of the blade. That way it sets in and really scrubs away all the extra crap and stuff you don't need. So, for instance, I would cover this, and then I would just buff all the way down the blade. You'll notice there's a flat part of the sword here before it bends into the two-edged. This part, you don't need to worry too much about keeping sharpened, but it is definitely still part of the blade, so you would still clean this segment, but just sharpen the rest of this. So we'll go ahead, buff our whole way down here, flip our blade. We would apply more cleaning powder, and we'll buff this the whole way down. There's another rust spot there, another rust spot down here. So we're going to go ahead and buff this the whole way down, assuming we had our cleaning powder. Okay. Then we're going to apply our whetstone. So the whetstone, the way this would work, I'm going to keep the blade here to keep with the camera angles, but you would take the whetstone. Again, we're going to use our cloth because it's the only piece of material I actually have today. We're going to take the whetstone. You would run it down against the sharp edge of the blade. What this does is it acts as a portable grindstone, which will grind down these edges of the blade just on the pure edge for the actual slashing and or cleaving part of the blade. So you would run it down right here on both sides to grind out the edges down to a very fine cutting point. Again, we would skip this whole flat part because this is more of an extra handle part of the blade. If you wanted to hold it like this, get you some more a bit less swing action for like a closer quarters scenario, but if you're out in the middle of an open field, you grab down here and you swing for the fence. But we're not going to worry about this for the actual grindstone part. You would grind down both the edges up to the point, flip your blade over, and then you would grind down to the point here again. And then once you had all these pieces small files and shavings everywhere, you're going to go ahead and take your cloth and wipe the blade off one more time, just to make sure you're not holding on to any additional fibers and small bits of metal that could get all over the place and just be filthy and dirty. You don't want that. We don't want any of that. So after we've used our grindstone and gotten rid of all of our unwanted filings and shavings, the last step is to keep your blade maintained with mineral oil. After you've opened up all that stuff's not exposed to the outside as often. You want to make sure it stays nice. So you would apply your oil to it, and then again, just buff that right on down with your cloth, and keep your sword safe. To wrap things up, we're just going to go ahead and say that you keep your sword in its sheath at all times, and always treat it sort of in the same way you would treat gun safety. Don't pull the sword out and brandish it at anybody. Don't run around with it open and out in the open. Just keep it safe, keep it secure. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.